everybody. Welcome to this intuitive reading. And as usual, I will draw 3 cards, and this time I have some companion cards, some the Tarot of Marseille, to kind of explain or shed more light into what we are reading with the Hebrew letter cards. So, as usual, the first card relates to the actual situation, so the current situation where we're living. And just to put a little bit of a context of the reading, I always ask, so my intention is to bring you information that will help you navigate this time, that will help you and that will help us, because I'm included in this process to help us take better advantage of the current transformational energies that are available to us, and especially in the current times that are even more chaotic than we were used to, and even more, as some people say, real than that they were probably have seen before, or they have perceived as the chaos really being real and really touching their lives and our lives anyway. So here, the first card is the first card for the month of May 2020 is the card of He. And I'm pretty sure we've kind of brought this card not so long ago, and probably even in April, I'm not sure. But anyway, He has kind of many folds, but I think in particular what calls my attention and I hear that we need to focus on this card is about breathing. And there's no coincidence, of course, that this pandemic has to do with breathing, with the respiratory system, an illness of the respiratory system. And this is actually a card that is kind of reminding us to do so. Or probably, now it's coming clearer. What happens also is, like, when we are in the month of March and April, we were probably in a state of shock of everything that has been happening around us and in the world. And He is kind of bringing us this reminder, this opportunity, this space where we can actually breathe, where we can actually stop the shock and being like, and really start breathing again deeply and being in the present. It is also known that when we are in a state of shock, we tend to kind of exit our body, to really go a little bit on the side or above our body. So we are really not incarnated. Sometimes it's because of the pain we feel that it's really hard to kind of feel within the body, especially if you're sensitive and if you're a sensitive person. So you might tend to kind of escape the body so that you are not so tormented or affected by the pain that you can feel in your body with everything happening around us. So He is kind of also calling for that, the prana, or the divine breath, if you want to call it, and the consciousness is also kind of traveling into our body through the breath, through breathing. So that's why it is important that He is kind of calling us that this month probably is a month where we can recover our capacity to breathe, and maybe it's also kind of creating a space of calmness, and maybe there's a space of kind of a pause of all this chaos. So I think it's a very positive card. Well, I don't think there's really a negative card, because there's always positive and negatives within the same card. But anyway, I intuitively feel and hear that the focus is on respiration. It's really on breathing and on the capacity we have to stay in the present and come back to the present by breathing and really activate that capacity. And again, having this month, that we will have this month the space to actually do it, to actually get out of the state of shock. And so let's just take another card of the Marseille tarot, so we can see if there's anything else we have to look at in the month of May. Yeah, okay. It's funny, that card came up in the Spanish, in the reading in Spanish, the same card. Well, the Temperance in this case, I think, is asking us not so much to be temperate or to have some prudence. I think in this case is almost signaling to our interior alchemy, to our personal alchemy, to the way we can transform a situation that that has been brought by this crisis and these events into something that is actually a resource for us. So really is about going inside to gather these resources while we are exercising or really executing or applying our connection to our higher self. So whereas maybe before, let's say, this crisis, we had that kind of as an option. We could do it, but nothing happens if we were not doing it. Nothing happened. Maybe our life was not going to be transformed, or nothing was going to change really deeply, but it was business as usual. So probably our ego was and our mind was very comfortable with that, and so we would probably go forward with that. And instead, in this case, while we are in the midst of this pandemic and this crisis, this chaos around, there's really this sense of urgency also to go within and to connect with our higher self, to really use and to that resource to really break free from maybe the laziness or the inertia. I think it's not a laziness of meaning that we were kind of there was no mistake in that, but it was just, let's say, comfortable in to go on with the habits that we had. And now this crisis really is like asking us and is pushing us to really search for these inner resources, to also not place that security of our lives and the security that we felt from our habits, of our daily routines, and really bring it into our inner core, to really have the foundation of our life inside, in this connection, in this knowing who we really are, in this knowing that in a level everything is always all right and we are always safe. So that's, I think, and it's not a matter of knowing it with your head, it's really a matter of knowing it in your being, with really feeling it in your body. Anyway, this is the first card. And then the second card normally is about is the advice. So what is the advice that the cards, that the Hebrew letters and its wisdom wants to give to us about in the month of May, in the month of May 2020, for whoever is listening to this. And this is the same card that came into the Spanish reading. So that, for me, it just means that it's really a significant pattern for the collective, and it really means that there's something really to look into it. So I'll just explain what I explained before. Vav is the tree of life, and Vav is also the central column of the spine. And Vav, it relates also to traumas. So that's why I mentioned in the beginning that this is a time, May will be a time of creating a pause, really creating a pause so we can move forward, creating a space so we can breathe, getting out of the shock. And Vav is really talking about that, healing that shock. Vav is about the shocks that we have along the central column or the spine, And something that we have to take into account is that before something is manifested in the world, energetically, it had to be somewhere. So, as a collective, in our collective psyche, in our human psyche, there was this shock already, somewhere stored around the spine. There was this shock, this trauma of maybe feeling vulnerable and insecure, and it kind of just blotted out. It's just out in the open, and now we can see it, now we can feel it very fully, and now we can heal it as well. The moment we can see it, we can also heal it, and we can feel it, and then we can heal it. So Vav is talking about and it's funny, if you can hear, there's a kid kind of in the background. There's a kid from my neighbors, and Vav, when I was talking about this in the reading in Spanish, what was very obvious is that the shock is actually in the solar plexus. So it's really in the inner child. And it's the inner child that needs to have some sort of relief, some sort of reassurance that things are all right and that things are going well. And as I'm speaking this, that kid stopped screaming and crying. Oh no, now he's again. Anyway, it's really funny that he started to doing that when I was going to talk about this inner child. So anyway, Vav is asking us to look at the inner child and to give him some relief of some sort, give him some reassurance that things are all right. He's probably still in shock. He needs to have some space and some time so he can breathe back again and kind of get out of this shock, because the shock was inside. So it is a time for us to maybe nurture this inner child and guide him and really parent our own inner child, so that he can feel reassured that even though the future, we don't know what the future looks like, we don't know, probably it will not, no, most likely it will not be like the past, it will not be like just before the COVID-19, but it's going to be a different one. But in the different one, in the different present, in the different future, let's say, in the different timeline, there's going to be everything that he needs, and things are going to be all right. So that's what our work and the advice that the cards are giving to us right now. And again, it's funny, now really the kid kind of quiet down when we started to talk about him. And this is a card of the advice. It's a funny card for an advice. It's a card of the world. I don't know if you can see it there, probably. Yeah. Okay. So the world and Vav, that's kind of a very interesting situation. Yeah, but actually no, it is very logical. And what they are telling me is this: when the inner child is feeling when he's feeling not cared for, when he's feeling abandoned, when he's feeling alone, we can say, we can define that inner child as our human side. No, that part of us that still is a very in human nature, that is not how can I say, that is not connected to spirit. It's always connected to spirit, but it's not consciously connected to spirit. That's what I mean. So no, yeah, I don't want you to think otherwise. So we are always connected to spirit, but that part of ourselves that is not connected to spirit consciously, and so that part of us can feel abandoned, can feel left alone, can feel uncared for, can feel unloved. And when we are healing this part through this advice of Vav, of looking at our inner child and giving him reassurance and care, we, instead of having a figure like in the rest of the cards, yeah, like look at this card, for instance. In the tarot cards in general, you have the whole figure occupying the whole card. And this is really kind of the personality part of our being. And when you are dealing with an integration, and this is what it's calling for, an integration of the self, you are kind of occupying your space in the universe. So you are really taking your place, and this inner child is really taking its space in the universe. It's kind of feeling that he's part of the whole, he's not abandoned, he's not left out of the creation, he's part of it, and he's protected, he's safe, he's inside this. It's also kind of a womb, if you want to, like a cosmic womb. So it's really coming back to that sense of innocence as well, because everything is being given to us. Everything that we need is coming to us when we are trusting. When we are not trusting, when we are in doubt, there are many things that can just come out wrong because of our own fear. So that's the advice of the cards this month. And the gift then will be the third card. The gift, well, we go through all this, and the gift in this time, May 2020. Okay. Wow, that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. It's quoth, a quoth, and it's a well, the phrase that comes right away when I look at that card is the sun at midnight. The sun at midnight. And what do you think about the sun at midnight? I think for me it's kind of the capacity to bring light, to shine a bright light, even in the most desperate situations, is really to bring the Christic energy of unconditional love into the darkest or the densest of the matters. And this is really what will happen if we are allowing or taking the time and taking the space to take care of our inner child and bringing ourselves into the center of creation, bringing ourselves into the womb of creation and feeling really healed, feeling really in connection with the creation in the universe, and knowing that it's not that the earth went crazy or that the universe is against us and is conspiring against us to make us suffer. It is probably trying to call our attention, and maybe the only way to do that is to disrupt our lives in this way, so that we can really have the time and the focus to our inner life. And of course I'm speaking about the Western world that will have the capacity to just stop and go on with its own life inside our house or whatever. There are other countries that probably will do it differently, but in any case the disruption sometimes brings you to focus somewhere else. So it disrupts also your daily life focus, so that you can go inside. And Quoth is kind of telling us that at the end of this process, probably at the end of May, and it's not only at the end of May, but it's also the whole process of these events, is that it will also allow us to heal parts of ourselves that will allow to bring and to shine a light into these desperate situations for some. So, and remember the time or the when we are healed, when someone is healed, we are all healing a part of ourselves. So we are all gaining from this exercise of focusing some attention to our inner child. Anyway, so let's grab another card of the tarot just to see if there's some clarification for Quoth. Oh, that's really funny. And now we have the Tower. But if you see the Tower, sometimes it's interpreted also like a disruption, a dissolution of a certain structure, a house that is crumbling, a structure that it can be external, can be materialized, it can be also an internal structure. And if you think about it, just the idea of knowing or just the idea of conceiving that in such a disruptive time, in such a chaotic and chaotic times, and during this crisis, that you are able actually to feel like the world, card tells us, really feel healed, feel whole, feel connected to the universe, feel that the universe has your back. That is disruptive. That is disruptive for our human psyche and the fear that is around. That is disruptive for the way that we have been brought about believing that we have to be always on guard. And that is also, if you see at the card itself. So what happens at the top of this tower is a thunder. So it's really like this lightning bolt hitting on your crown chakra. It's really like this realization that you are actually safe. And this is also what it's about. So it's really, again, this light shining in the middle of the night, in the middle of the very dark night that we are living, probably as a collective consciousness. Like a dark night of the soul, when everything looks just grim and gloom, and at the same time there's always kind of this new consciousness rising. That's the meaning of the tower. I think that's clear. And so I hope you like this reading. Let me know if you like this tarot, that I include these Marseille tarot cards. And I hope you have a wonderful month. I hope you really take advantage of this. It's a great energy to have as an ally during these times, and it's a great opportunity for us to heal and to feel complete and connect again with the universe and feeling safe again. Take care and thank you for being here. See you next time. Bye bye.